folks. Welcome to another episode of the Witty Wicklow Writers Workshop. So, writers, like ourselves, we always have been dreamers, sometimes literally. We can think of the past from Coleridge, Kubla Khan to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Many of the world's most famous works were born not exactly from waking hours, they were born from the strange, vivid space between sleep and imagination. So tonight we are exploring the intersection of dreams and writing. Our subconscious mind shapes stories, how travel and lived experiences fuel creativity, and how memory, imagination, and emotion they all come together in a package when we sit down to write. So we will ask this question, and you are more than happy to answer in the chat box. Are dreams a secret gateway to creativity, or they are just chaos from the night before? The other question we are going to address is how do personal journeys, real or imagined, help us build uh, more authentic characters and universes? So I'm your host, and I'm joined by my two favorite witty Wicklow writers, Jeroen Vandommele and Maria Stavropoulou. And we are all ready to deep dive into the creative mind and writing as tonight for the first time. And for the first time tonight, we will read our stuff at the end. So that's something new. I hope you enjoy it. So before we get into the topics, I want to ask you guys, how are you getting on, Maria? I heard you're still suffering from a cold, but I'm trying to cheer you up.
I feel I'm always suffering for a cold these days. So this is the face of October flu, everyone. Go get your vaccines, drink your fluid. I was looking at myself at the camera and I'm like, at least I still have my voice because the face is gone. So as long as I have a voice, I will participate in the podcast. But if I start sounding too groggy, maybe we'll switch to sign language instead, whatever we can make of it anyway. Other than that, I'm okay. Gotten back into writing again after the holidays I had in September. So general consensus, alive and writing.
Cool. What's the crack? What are you in, Jeroen?
Yeah, same as that. Getting into writing. I think I'm nearly finished my one book, which is great. I didn't think so, but I'm nearly there. I need to look at photos and stuff to put into it, but yeah, I'm pretty good. Everything's pretty good, and keeping the writing going, keeping everything going, and the back into the usual winter scenario. We just spent a whole evening out in the wild rain of Wicklow. But it's great, all good, and just tipping away and doing a bit of writing and happy out with it, and it'll be interesting to see tonight because it'll be obviously the first time that we're actually reading something that we've written, so it's a new departure, let's say, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, just talking of the weather, I just came back from London yesterday, and it felt like summer on the last day. It was crazy. It was like 20, 21 degrees. Like I was sweating in London, which is already weird, and sweating in London in October. That was unreal, that was unreal. So that's one of the things I will explore on Friday. I want to announce the viewers. I'll be doing a live on my impressions from London on Friday. I'm expecting to schedule that for lunchtime, so if people who are working, they can take a break, and around noon, they can listen to my impressions from London. I haven't visited London for 12 years, so a lot have changed, not only in the city, but also in myself as an individual. So I think it'll be interesting to go through my impressions. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, get a notification about the exact time. I expect to be around noon Irish time. So subscribe to the channel, share with someone who is into this sort of conversations, travel, culture, writing, that kind of stuff. And if you enjoy what we do here, make sure to give us a thumbs up. So let's start with travel. Now that we're talking about visiting other places, I'm interested, Maria, and your thoughts on travel. What does that represent to you when it comes to writing?
I always find that whether I'm traveling to a familiar place or a place I've never visited before, I'm always getting something from it, especially since I started writing. So writing has helped me put a different lens on things. So now, even with like my hometown or places I know very, very well, I'm seeing it under a different scope. I'm seeing more details. I'm noticing more things that I didn't before, whether it's man-made structures or nature or the way people move. So I always find you don't need to travel to new places to get like a bout of inspiration or get something from it. Of course, it helps, especially if you have the opportunity to experience things that, you know, you wouldn't experience in your town or in your country even. But also now with the internet, a lot of the things that we can familiarize ourselves with, we can just sit home and watch them. But yeah, indeed, I always find that the personal experience is different because you have more of control, let's say, on what you can witness, on where you can go, on the route you're going to take around the town. Like myself, I always like going to smaller places that have a lot of nature, but a lot of the like traditional city center as well. So like villages and smaller places like that, because I find that people are not rushing as much. And I like, for example, to sit at a coffee shop and see people passing by and noticing the area rather than, I don't know, being in a capital where everyone's in a rush and we're very, very limited by structure. So either or, I think it definitely brings up new ideas for writing. And myself, I've taken advantage of some of my travels to construct my thoughts differently or come up with new ideas. So whether you do it in person or you just explore online, it's something that really, really seems to help, especially for like fantasy writers, I'd say.
You mentioned something that I would like to pick before I pass the word to Jeroen. It seems to me that writing has transformed your perception of things. And so I say when you travel, you're not the same person because you have been exposed to reality in a different way. Is it something that now has really transformed the way you adapt to traveling?
Yeah, I think like it's very weird, but I think it's one of those things that when you've experienced it, it never really goes away. So I don't have to actively think, how could I use this? Like how this city looks in my writing. It's like I've activated something. So I'm more aware of the people that are around me, of how they move, of their conversations that, you know, they used to take for granted, like going to a shop, for example, the hello, I'd like this, how much does it cost? I feel like I'm tuning in more, not eavesdropping, I'd like to think, but more like people speak differently than I do. They may phrase the same question in a different way, where I will always say, how much does that cost, for example? So I feel like I'm opening myself to more ways of expressing the same thing or the same idea. Plus, sometimes I find that it solves questions that I have, like, you know, how does particular structure work, for example, or a little or a little machine or something, perhaps, or something very, very simple. Like when I went to Hungary last year, and I noticed something in Budapest that I'd forgotten about, how in front of old houses they would have these little stands that were like that were there for you to clean your shoe before going in. I'd completely forgotten about them because you don't see them. They used to be a thing in my city. The way architecture has changed now, they're tearing down all the old buildings. You don't really see them again. So it brought back a memory to me. But that memory came with, you know, how people used to dress differently then, how this was something that a lot of homes have, especially the more high class ones, because it was considered rude to just walk inside without even doing that before stepping on a carpet. So it just like activates a lot of different thoughts, and something as simple as that I would have not noticed, especially because it's something that I've seen before in my life. It's not something that I would wonder, oh, what is that and what does it do? And I would search it up or I'd ask someone. It can just bring up so many thoughts and you make so many connections in your brain, even the tiniest thing. And I was actually surprised on how this little thing brought images to my head and made me think, oh, I wonder what else like used to be a staple that does not exist anymore. Like I think at some point, if I'm going to write about an like old aristocratic house like that, that's a nice little visual to use as well. So as a writer, it's helping me as well and makes an image more realistic or more nostalgic accordingly. So just a small example of something, I guess, that really helps and you wouldn't have thought about it twice.
Yeah, one challenge I have, you know, as a travel writer, because I tend to describe some situations I encounter when I travel, and of course, I want to be as accurate as I can, as a writer. And sometimes I'm part of the story, so I don't want to engage in a way with, let's say, with locals that will make it interesting, for the story, because then I'm cheating. But on the other hand, I have the temptation just to say something funny or just to provoke, just to add some spice, let's say, to the situation. But then it's not real. So there's always this challenge of, am I going to try to make it more interesting? Am I going to let it go as is? Because I know that sooner or later I will use that contest for a story, which is something I experience. So it's always tricky, how you approach that. And with that, I want to ask you, Jeroen, because I know you are also a memoir writer like myself. So how do you approach these situations now that you know that they can be material for you to write?
I think I've always looked at them from an observational point of view. So I'm very aware of those kind of situations as well, where, me interacting with the situation can change the situation or can make it, I don't know, whatever, change. I'd like to think that I'm more observational on it, and I'm trying to log it somewhere in my brain and go, yes, I'm going to use this later on. But I very much like you, I'm really trying not to influence it in any way, shape, or form. I want to look at it from the top down kind of thing, just look at it like an observer, or look at it like, from above the scenario, so that I can take it in and remember it and use it if I choose to later on. What I find, about, say, traveling or about going to different places, it's not just the places that kind of inspire me. I find that traveling also leads you into other people, right? And they can be just, I don't know, different people from what you're used to. But I really like to look at people. I'm a people watcher kind of thing, and I often find, even in a small village or, whatever, a very innocuous kind of a situation in a shop or whatever, I'm watching it and I'm watching the particular character that is there and the way they're dealing with things. Because I'm going, wow, I'm writing this down. This is meaty stuff, like. And so it's the traveling part, seeing different places, getting kind of inspired by other ways of being or whatever. That definitely is an inspiration to me. But I would say more even is the types and characters of people that you see, or the situations that you see on a tube in London, or on a, whatever, in a very kind of a normal day-to-day situation, and there's a character in there who's not handling it in a normal day-to-day kind of way, and that can be pretty inspiring,
Yes.
And I find even sometimes, and what writing has done for me now is that all of those situations. So whether I'm traveling, whether I'm going to an airport, whether I'm going on a train, whether I'm on a holiday in a small town in Ireland, whatever, right? I'm now aware, which I wasn't really before. I'm now aware, and I'm looking for those little situations that I will write down. I don't want to influence them in any shape or form, but I find myself looking and noting and going, yeah, okay. And then that evening, or the next day when I'm writing, I quickly make a note at the end of my writing, and I go, right, so I met this character, or so this happened, so that I remember, oh yeah, it's there, and this is what happened, and this is how this character was dealing with things, So it can be inspirational on so many levels, not only seeing it a different way of life or a different way of being, but different people handling that different way of life. I find fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I think Maria has faded away there. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
She was.
I feel she is in, but just with the audio. There must be
Ah,
something there
yeah.
on our end, I presume. So I was, as I said at the beginning, I was in London for the weekend, and I know we lived there for a good few years. And I was thinking about you when I was on the tube, because you mentioned those endless journeys from A to B, and now you do similar stuff when you commute from Greystones. We'll talk about Greystones later on in detail, from Greystones to Dublin, and you write while you are traveling. Do you think, let's say, you would relocate to London for some strange reason? Would you be able to write in the tube?
I think that's a very good question. I think that I would be more inclined to sit and watch what's going on in the tube than to write. I think the tube is mad. You see mad stuff on the tube all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. And I think, and I was just recently in London myself after not having been there for a long, long time. And I think now with my writer's, I'll say glasses on, not hat, but I'll say glasses on, I think I'd be looking around me and watching and listening to conversations and hearing the languages that are spoken on the tube. It's like a Tower of Babel on the tube. You know what I mean? There's languages from all over the world. And I found that when I was there this time, I was watching, I was learning, I was looking at all the different things. So I think that it would be too stimulating for me to actually write if I did move back to London, if I did be in that situation, just because it's like you don't know what's happening next. There's all sorts of mad situations and just hilarious, not so hilarious, weird, strange, nutty situations at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning on the tube. So to answer your question, I think if I did that, I think I would be just looking and noting and recording in my brain. I'm going to use that. And more so than in Dublin, because in Dublin, well, maybe it's just, I do the commute every day. It's kind of the same thing. Do you know what I mean? There's not really nutty situations that happen so much. Yeah, you have the odd junkie on the train or the odd, I don't know, guy who's drunk or sitting raving about whatever, but it doesn't happen that frequently. In London, it happens all the time. It's just, it's I guess it's just a way bigger city. There's a lot of different people from a lot of different places there. But yeah, I'm very much, and I found that this time when I went back there, I was really looking at everything in a way of, I need to use that. That's cool. That's something I have never seen before,
Yeah. Let me encourage the viewers to write in the chat box what was the weirdest situation we encountered while we were traveling, whether it was in an airplane, in a ferry, in a tube, in a train, in a bus, in a taxi. Doesn't matter. Just let us know in the chat box, and maybe we can use that as an inspiration for one of our upcoming stories. So I've worked at the airport for 2 years. I've worked at the luggage desk in Barcelona airport back in the days, back in my mid-20s, and what you were just describing, it resonates with my experience on a day-to-day basis, because the crowd was never the same. It was recycling continuously. So it was the opposite of sitting in an office, because every day I had different customers, literally. Like I would never encounter the same face. Okay, I was at a luggage desk, so sometimes we're opening a claim that the baggage didn't arrive, and the person will pick it up in 5 days. That will be the only repetition. All the rest was continuously recycling of people. And that was amazing. Like you would encounter all sorts of individuals, families, drunkards, couples fighting, couples falling in love, all sorts of inspirations. Like it was even hard for me to work, just because I was always taking notes on the side. I can say that now because I'm not working for them anymore. But it was so hard, and especially because it was new. Imagine, I was living abroad for 2 years. I was not as much exposed to international crowds. So it was fantastic. Airports, to me, they were a massive source of inspiration. Now, 15 years have passed. So to me, it's the opposite. They are draining me. Like I just want to get on the plane and arrive to London, Lisbon, New York, Tel Aviv, wherever I'm going. I don't care. I just want to get to the destination. I used to love airports. Now they are just sucking my energy. What's your perception of airports? Start with Maria now.
Yeah, they drain me as well. I generally don't travel well. I get very anxious. Sometimes I feel very claustrophobic as well. So I think, yeah, if sedation was a thing for traveling, I'd definitely go for it. Like, put me in a little cage in the belly of the plane, leave me there to sleep for the 4 hours, I'll be fine. No, I find it too much.
They do that. Sorry, Maria, sorry to interrupt you. They do that with pets, with some anxious cats.
Why is it not available for humans? I don't know. Like, I've stated.
So there is hope. There is hope. There is hope.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the way Ryanair is going, I guess maybe that's how we'll all have to travel from some point onwards. Like, the planes are getting smaller and smaller, so maybe I'll get my wish. Let's see. No, I think airports bring out the worst in people. Like, everyone is in a hurry. You've invested so much time and so much money on your trip. There are probably things that you have to do when you land and everything. So I feel it is an interesting playground for information, I guess, and characters and everything, because you really do see some characters on the airports, and it's interesting to see how people react when something doesn't go their way. But generally, I feel it's not something that I'd care to repeat as much as possible, because it's just a lot of unhappy people trying to get to some place. Is very anxiety reducing, and you have your own self to take care of. But, you know, for the last few years, I've been working from home as well. So I'm not interacting that much with people, and I'm not usually traveling to big cities. So there is something to be said about the experience of finding yourself in a big room, essentially, with a lot of people, and noticing how everyone moves and how people talk to each other, or how they clash with each other, how they react to stimulants or problems. So there is definitely a lot of material for writers in places with a lot of people. It's just, you know, it's something that I would not like to do very often. But every time I have to travel, I try to take advantage of the experience, because it also passes the time, even if, you know, you don't really want to do it. So it's very good. Small places, especially if, you know, you interact with the same people over and over again, from some point onwards, you lose some of that novelty that is to find yourself in a crowd. So yeah, definitely beneficial. Although, yeah, if I could be sedated first, I could.
You raised a very interesting point. The fact that now we work from home and we are not continuously exposed to people in the ways we were in the past, and maybe in the future we can talk about how lockdown changed us as writers. You know, how does that influence the way we use our creativity? The fact that we have a different routine. So I think it will be interesting. We can bring lockdown and COVID maybe to next session. And with that, I'm going to say next session is going to be live. Because if we do these things in YouTube, you never know. The channel can be taken down if you talk about what happened in 2020. I'm not going to say the name. 2020. So maybe next session, because next session is going to be live. So for the viewers, just to be aware of, we will be live on the 4th of November. Yeah, 4th of November. Yeah, I'm not mistaken. 4th of November, Tuesday. We are thinking of starting a bit earlier, because this will take place on the library, and the library closes at 8:30. So the intent is to start at 6:30. It's not 100% confirmed. So if you want to be sure, what I can recommend is to press the subscribe button below, and you'll be notified once the starting time is settled. But we expect, so big announcement, 4th of November, the three of us, Greystones Library. So in the heart of Wicklow, the three of us will sit, have a similar session as we do here, but live, face-to-face. So if you are living in Ireland, we'll be glad if you can join us, 4th of November, 6:30, Greystones Library. If you happen to be in Ireland, you are more than welcome to spend that afternoon in Greystones. It's a lovely town, with two beaches, the north and the south, plenty of places to eat and drink. And I'm not being sponsored by any of those places, so I'm not here promoting it for money. Before you say, "Oh, this guy is just trying to make money, make some shekels here," it's not the case. Huh? I'm just inviting you to join us 4th of November, 6:30. Jeroen, before we pass to the next topic, what's your relationship with airports and bus stations, train stations? How does that inspire you, if they do?
Well, I would say that airports, like Maria says, airports for me are a necessity. You've got to get through them, and they're not exactly the most pleasant necessity, but you do get a lot of interaction, let's say it like that, with other people. So watching their reactions, you can learn a lot from it. You can be inspired by it. But me, I personally would prefer train stations or trains or buses, that kind of thing. I feel that people are less stressed in those scenarios. Maybe it's because everybody's in a rush in the airport. You have to get to a certain point at a certain time. They're going to change the gate 25 times. You have to get a bleeding bus, get your suitcase out from wherever, it's airport for me is hassle and stress. And every 5 minutes you have to wave some document, you know what I mean? It's just stress. But I reckon that for me, I prefer like a train station or a train, or it's a more sedate way of traveling in my estimation. And also like the likes of a train station, especially if you go on the continent, and you keep your eyes open in any train station. So you're going to see homeless people. You're going to see people who are rushing to a business meeting in a suit, stressing about, I don't know what. You're going to see, kids, stray dogs, all this kind of stuff. There's the whole of humanity is in a train station. It's incredible. You're going to see old people, young people, black people, white people, people from anywhere in the world. You all you have to do is walk through a straight train station, and you'll see it all. And that to me is more kind of inspirational, especially than an airport, because like Maria said, I just find airports just hassle. There was a time when I used to love flying. Now I just want to get there. I actually don't want, sedation. I want teleportation. That's what I want.
Yes. Yeah.
None of this messing around in airports. Just step into a door and appear in, I don't know, Brussels or wherever you're going to. I want teleportation. Give me teleportation. I'll be so happy. But yeah, I find airports, and there's just a lot of sense of rushing, and it's just not really pleasant. And I still love flying. That I would say, right? Once you're on the plane and you're sitting down and you have your way too small seatbelt on, and your elbow has been removed from the next person's ear hole, you're good. And then you're traveling and you're going, But the actual experience of getting into the airplane is just hell. And not in any way pleasant. And so, it's funny, I kind of then would switch off that kind of inspiration part of my brain, because I'm just trying to get through it, just get there, get on the seat, get on the plane. Once you have that takeoff feeling, then you're like, okay, now I'm going to where I want to go, But like I said, like train stations, tubes, buses, they're a mine of information and inspiration. They really are. They're amazing.
A comment here, sorry to cut you off. Train stories. Trains are stories that reveal themselves well. Airplane stories are like failed TV series that are cut mid-viewing.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. 100% agree with it. That is exactly it. And on a train, I don't know, because of the nature of it, it's just a more enjoyable form of travel, one. And second, I find that I will sit and put on my writer's glasses much quicker in that sort of situation,
It is an encouragement. I don't psycho, so I cannot comment. Yeah, I used to have a dream, moving to dreams, but still on the travel topic. I used to have a dream, and the dream was to launch my next book on an airplane journey. Yeah, of course it will be a very expensive one. So yeah, so I will be seated somewhere, let's say at row number 1 or number 2, and launching the book about, ideally a travel book. This dream is no longer part of my dreams. The other one was to write for a airline magazine. I think they're only crap these days. So why do I want to have my article between some sandwiches and some nasty joys? I don't see any merit on that. So no. But let's move to dreams that are more noble than my past dreams. Let's move to that. So what are we dreaming today? I have a question for Maria that I wanted to ask for quite some time, but it's a question I usually ask expats. I think I haven't asked you this. So in what language do you dream, Maria? Because as a bilingual person, it's always tricky.
Do you believe I have never thought of that? I know what language I think in, and that is English, interrupted by French. It's 100% Greek when I'm frustrated, but in fairness between those three languages, French is I don't remember these words, so let me remember a very random French word I learned 15 years ago, just to prove that the brain can go back, I guess. Now, when it comes to dreaming, I don't know. I have very vivid dreams, like the imagery is there. I see colors, I see 3D, I see it's proper like living. So sometimes I wake up and I'm a little bit, what happened? But the language, I've never thought about it, to be honest. That's something I need to focus on. Let me go for 5 minutes and I'll have an answer for you. I don't know. That's very interesting.
I have a weird comment on that, right? And I'm like Maria, I speak several languages. I dream in the language of the country that I'm in, if I speak that language, obviously. It's very strange. Really, really strange. If I'm in France, I will dream in French, right? If I'm back in Belgium, I'll be dreaming in Dutch. It's very weird. And I can very specifically say, just I'm dreaming in that language. It's very, very strange, very weird.
And does it happen immediately? Let's say day 1 you are in France, you are automatically switched to French.
Yes, it's
Wow.
and it's like, let's say I'm in France, right? So, and I probably, it is because I am speaking French during the day, right? And then obviously going to sleep at night, and probably it's that sort of stimulus that comes through, and therefore it's that language that I choose. But yeah, it's very odd, and I'm very aware of it. I'm very conscious of it. I love it. I think it's amazing, but I'm very conscious of that, and I don't really know why that is, but I know, that, for instance, when I'm in Ireland, I dream in English all the time. When I'm home in Flanders, I dream in Dutch. When I'm in France, it's weird. It's very, very strange.
Well, I can tell I can tell you what language I speak sometimes when I wake up, though, which might be very interesting to you, because it happened last time, a year and a half ago, I think. So it has happened that sometimes when I have operations where I'm sedated, I wake up and I speak Russian, which is a language I have learned. I'm not making it up. But it has happened in a hospital, and it's happened at the dentist. And at the dentist, in the hospital, it was interesting because they were trying to find an interpreter, because I would not switch the language for several minutes from what I'm told. So that was fantastic. And
Wow.
in the dentist here in Ireland, I was really out of it, like really out of it. So I woke up, I started speaking Russian, then I caught myself speaking Russian, and I turned to the dentist and I said, apparently, among asking, what that tasty strawberry banana bar he gave me earlier, because my stomach was empty, I told him, haha, you must think of like a sleeper agent now that I switched to Russian when I woke up. And I thought that was hilarious. And I don't know if my husband was embarrassed and whatnot. We've never spoke about it afterwards. So I don't know. Maybe Russia, you could put in the mix. But yeah, I don't adapt as well with Jeroen, so I hope I'll never get in trouble when I'm traveling because it's just so randomly speaking a language. But yeah, that just
Yeah.
like twice it has happened now that people have told me of at least. So I'll keep you posted. If I ever end up in a cell or questioned, I'll update you on that as well. But just vouch.
So here is something, sorry, Maris, here is something for you to reveal live in Greystones. What language do you use when you are dreaming? So, guys, if you want to know, make sure to make it to Greystones library. Now, if we're not in Ireland, we'll try to broadcast. It's very important to say. We'll do our best on the technical aspect. We'll try to make it happen. We are still trying to find a way. We believe it's possible, but everything going well. Whether we're in Ireland or not, you'll be able to watch our next episode. Just talking of this post-surgery funny situations. Like I had a surgery back in January. It was my first, and hope it was the first and the last in my whole life, because I was not very excited about it. Nothing really heavy, but still surgery is surgery. But I remember that I spoke English all the time, and I remember the first two things I spoke with the nurse. First, I asked, "This is it?" because I thought it was too quick, and the second is because she said, "Yes, yeah, you're all sorted." I said, "Okay, then I'm very hungry. Give me food because I'm starving. I don't care." And I was bleeding all over. No, you cannot eat now. You are still bleeding. I don't care. I'm starving. So I just started to ask for food. Whatever. So I'm going to eat anything, bread and butter, whatever you have, because I was starving.
The language of food is very important.
Yes. If I would have to speak Russian to get a sandwich, I think I would have learned Russian at one. Yeah. I was desperate. Jeroen, take us to your dreams universe, please.
Well, so like Maria, and it's actually nice. It's nice to hear that somebody else has dreams in the way that I do. I would equate that my dream universe is like a movie. And I mean like a movie because it's full color, full sound. There's often a soundtrack that goes with my dreams, right? To that extent. And now the problem is that I don't always remember my dreams. I dream very, very vividly, but I don't remember them always. But when I do remember them, it means that it's been really epic. But yeah, it's in full color, it's in full sound, and with music. It's incredible, and it is like, I don't know, like it's extremely real, so real, in fact, that I've woken up several times going, am I actually asleep? Am I awake? Where am I? What's going on? What has just happened? It's so vivid that I feel like it's happened. And there's sometimes when I'm awake already for like an hour and I'm still going, did that actually happen now? Do I need to contact somebody about that? As in,
yes,
because something weird has happened in a dream, or you know what I mean? It's just very weird. But recently what I found in my dreamscapes, if I've been stuck in writing, and everybody gets stuck where they can't continue the paragraph, they're not finding the words, whatever it is, the day isn't with them, whatever, right? It gets solved in my dream that night. And it's extremely cool in a way, but it's also slightly disconcerting. But it's obviously that in my subconscious, I've taken that subconsciously to my sleep, and in my dream, then I see the answer, and I go, oh. And the next morning, then I write, and I'm like, there was never a problem. I know exactly what I need to write. I need to put it down. It solves issues. If I have an issue with a character, if I have an issue with, I don't know, whatever, a memory that I haven't totally articulated very well, whatever it is, it seems that I use my dreams as a way to solve those. And the next morning, the first thing I do is go and write down the solution. And it's always like, I mean, everybody knows about writer's block, and it is the thing, but I seem to be able to solve any type of writer's block that I have by dreaming about it. And the day before, I can literally write down something and I'll be like, oh my God, that's crap, or that's whatever it is, right? And then I dream about it that night, and suddenly I'll go, oh, that's not actually crap. I'm going to change that. I'm going to move it in this direction, that direction, whatever it is. And it's almost like I get inspiration from dreams a lot. So a lot of the dream scenarios that I end in come into my writing in some way. But more than inspiration, I get solutions to problems. And it's not only just in writing that happens, actually. I've been in a few situations in work or, you know, whatever, in life recently where, you know, I've been kind of like working on it in my head during the day, and then I dream about it that night, and then I know exactly what I need to do the next day. So it's really, I'm thankful for them because they solve a lot of issues for me. But it is bizarre. And what's always intrigued me is that your subconscious is so wired into your actual conscious, but you're not really aware of it. And this is where it's coming out. And this is where it starts to then, you know, it's your brain working it out, and it's your subconscious working it out. Something that you were not able to work out an hour before you went to bed. I just think that's fascinating. And I've often wondered as well, like, I'd like to at some point use a dream of mine as something that I want to write down. So as a story in itself. So not, you know, a part of a story or whatever, but to use some of the dreams, because I have such vivid dreams, if I can remember it, I'd like to use it as one of the, like a little short story or a little, you know, a little thing, just because I'd be like, oh, I'd like to get that down and try and even slightly describe it as it happened in my dream, you know. So yeah, that's kind of where it comes for me, you know.
What about the other way around, when one of your stories invades your dreams? Is it something that occurred to you, Jeroen?
Yeah, I would say it has. Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say that there have been times when a story that I'm writing or something that I'm writing has then become my dream that night. But it's usually in the same scenario where I'm trying to find a solution for something, you know. But it's also been where I've dreamt parts, like, let's say for the fiction work that I'm working on, some of that has definitely come, you know, the story has come into my dream and has influenced my dream. It's strange. They're kind of interconnected, if you like.
Interconnected, yeah. I just want to encourage other viewers to be as proactive as this person here. Make sure to use the chat box. And now that you are there, if you haven't pressed the subscribe button, it would be great if you can, because I want to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. So please help me. I think I'll be able to, but I need your support. So maybe that's something else to celebrate in November when we all meet in Greystones. Question for you coming from the viewer, Marie. If dreams could be recorded, what would the viewer viewing your dream classify it as?
Fantasy horror, I think. Sorry, I feel another coughing fit coming up, so I'm going to log out for a second, and I'll be right back in a minute.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I'll take that.
What about you?
I think that mine would be classified as kind of ultimate reality, if you like reality plus. If that exists as a movie genre, reality plus, not necessarily fantastical or anything like that. Sometimes, but generally it would be reality plus. Yeah, and then some. It's actually a good question. If you could record them.
Yeah, mine will be drama, which is interesting because most of
Really?
the stuff. Yeah, most of the stuff I mentioned that several times. Most of the stuff I write is somehow comic because I always add humor, some funny elements. It's just the way I use creativity. But when it comes to actually, I barely dream. Like if I have to do split between dreams and nightmares, I have an overwhelming amount of nightmares, maybe 70-80%. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is awful. It's
Yeah,
pretty awful.
that's
It's
not
pretty
great.
awful. I think most of my dreams are concerns, are messages that I'm receiving from my brain saying, this is something you need to solve. This is something that you are not totally okay with. So what I did about it, because it's not healthy, because like you are meant to rest, you are meant to switch off when you are sleeping, you're not there just to have one nightmare after another. You just pay a lot of attention, that when that nightmare kicks in, just tell to myself, this is not real, this is something happening as a nightmare, so I don't need to deal with it in reality. Now I will have the odd situation that you, as I just mentioned, Jeroen, that I need to double check whether this is real or not. So often I have to check my phone. Like for instance, sometimes I'm having this nightmare that I'm getting a WhatsApp message saying something very nasty is going to happen to me, let's say on the weekend, and I will need to go to the phone and check. So that can be very, very, very awful. Maria, are you recovered?
Yeah, I'm alive. We'll see if I'll be alive for the live show. I am so sorry to keep casting in and out. I just get these coughing fits, and I'm sure that no one wants me to faint in camera, so I'll take a little minute every now and then. About the question that you asked, yeah, I'd classify them as fantasy horror because usually there's a very distinctive fantastical environment. I usually don't see people that I know, places that are real. It's always like a sort of a magical setting. Sometimes I switch out between different people in my dream or different perspectives. So, and I find that also happens as I'm falling asleep a lot of times. So I started having an app on my phone where I can just write things down, because a lot of the ideas that I have, they're just coming to me at the moment sort of where I'm starting to lose consciousness and fall asleep. Sometimes they continue to dreaming, sometimes I just jerk myself awake and I write down something. But it's very interesting because it's usually things I have not experienced or I have not thought of actively, and I'm really excited for some of them because they're like stories that I want to see where they will go. And I was doing a little bit of studying on the science behind dreaming actually ahead of this podcast. And apparently, which is what I did not know, is that your logical filters go down as you sleep. So that enables your brain to make connections that you can't make when you're awake because all the logic has gone out the door essentially. So which explains why you can have such like scenarios. But the fact that like you and I also dream in color and in like a sort of a movie setting, it's allowed me to explore some things that I could not very easily conjure when I'm awake. Like I have this recurring dream, and this might be interesting for any Greek viewers because the dreams are something that we still interpret in Greece. It's a very old tradition. So whether what you see has different meanings, who you were with, whether something was up and down, all the sort of thing. There are even books you can purchase. So this recurring dream that I have, I'm standing on a beach and I see a big lot of waves rising up, and it never scares me. Now, tsunamis are something very, very scary and something I would never like to experience. Even, seeing an upset sea sometimes can make you feel a little bit, apprehensive. But in my dreams, I'm never afraid of. So this has given me a couple of ideas to put into writing, or like the image of this thing that is happening in your brain. It is so alive and vivid that I believe I can describe very well now how waves look if they would rise all of a sudden and were starting to come to you. I'm guessing I've combined images that I've seen perhaps from news, perhaps descriptions of things, but it's something that I have never tried to picture myself. So it's very interesting how when you're asleep, you can make up those images, or you can put them together from different parts of information. Because I don't remember ever seeing an actual video of a tsunami, like especially waves rising from nothing to like meters and meters above you in an instant. So it's very interesting to think about. Yeah, perhaps they're not 100% original ideas, but there's something in your brain that can make these connections, and it's very different from every person. Which brings me to the horror stuff, which is, I don't know, something always chases me most of the time, to which I'm very happy to wake up from. But a couple of things, and especially the topic of dreaming itself, it's something that I am using sometimes in my writing, which, you know, makes you wonder, how original is this? Why am I not thinking of this when I'm awake? Is it really my idea if I just dream of it? But it's such a big conversation. It's such an interesting topic as well. So in the fantasy book that I'm currently writing, one big part of that universe is a thing I'm calling dream walking. So it explores what happens to you when you dream. Like, can other people invade your dreams? Can they plant information there? Can they steal your dreams away from you? I just find it something so interesting because we don't have any control on it. I can't force myself to dream about something. I cannot make myself awake if I'm having a very unpleasant dream. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who sometimes gets so affected by their dreams that when I wake up, sometimes it takes up part of my day because I've been affected by something sad, or I've been scared about a possibility. So it's very, it just bleeds into your life. For me, more than my life bleeds into dreams. I don't tend, as I said, to dream of things that I know of or that I would think of during the day. It's the other way around. I'll spend part of my day thinking back of what I've dreamed. Because if I wake up and I remember the dream and I stay there for a little bit, like actively thinking, what did I just dream? I will remember it then for the rest of the day, and I'll write it down a lot of times. So it's a very interesting exercise for me. And I don't know if it's gotten better with writing, but I think I've always had very vivid dreams. So perhaps it's the reality part that has been affected more than the other way around. But at any rate, it's a very, very varied topic, I think.
Can you see a duck over there? A QR with a duck.
Yeah.
You're not dreaming. Huh? This is real. There's a QR. This is technology. This is technology. So there's a QR, guys. So if you want to subscribe to the channel instead of doing manually, you can point your phone to that duck, and instantly you can subscribe to the channel. So that's something new. So after that, guys, I think I can make it happen. On the 4th of November, I can make, because being broadcasted. After this duck, I think I'm tech savvy. So make sure to use it. There's a question here from Johnny for us. I think we should be very keen to answer. How often has a dream inspired your writing? Maybe Jeroen, you can take the lead here.
Yeah, very often, Johnny. Very, very often. And like I said, there's been scenarios that I have dreamt, and then I've used them as a way as part of my story, say. But more so when I'm stuck, my dreams solve it. So I would say that in fact, probably dreams have inspired my writing more than anything else. And I wouldn't have thought about this before, but now I really find that I'm looking forward to dreaming is probably a strong way of saying it, but it is, because I do get so many things from my dreams, and in a way I wish I could remember all of the dreams. I remember some, and not enough of them. Excuse me, but clearly the ones that are, affecting my story or my day. I will remember, or ones that have been very weird or just strange. But there's been a lot of, when I look back at it, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from dreams for me. And the other thing that's really interesting, I came across this very strange phenomenon recently where I was trying to remember something that was quite vague in my memory, right? And I wasn't getting it. I knew I wasn't right in the memory. The memory was being distorted by time and or whatever else. And then I dreamt that scenario that night. So this is a real scenario that's happened to me in the past that has, been blurred, let's say. And I'd wake up the next morning and I go, now I remember it well. Now I know what happened. So it's not just even the dream, but a memory, a real memory that I've had to dream to get right. So that really fascinated me, because I was like, in the daytime, I couldn't even remember properly what had happened or the sequence of events, or, how did this work, or what time or what day or whatever. I could remember bits of it, yeah. And then I'll dream about it and I suddenly go, oh yeah, and this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, I give you a really good example. Just this only happened a couple of days ago. I dreamt of I was at some point teaching languages, and I had completely forgotten to write that into the memoir that I'm writing, just totally gone. And I dreamt that I was teaching languages to the student that I had at that time. And it reminded me, oh, actually, that's quite an important part in my story, if you like. So it was only through that dream that otherwise I would have totally forgotten about it. And that literally happened 3 days ago. And yesterday I was able to write like nearly a full page on that experience, something that I had totally forgotten about, So yeah, all the time, inspiration comes from my dreams all the time. And I actively seek them out, because I've really realized that they're an important tool in my writing. Big time.
Interesting experiences shared by the viewers here. This person is just saying that he sleeps in a dark room on the floor with a fan on for the first 10 minutes of sleep. You can try to control the dream. In REM or light sleep, once you sleep into deep sleep, you lose control. That's very, very interesting. Yeah. So if others want to share their experiences, we are more than happy to hear. So use the chat box for that. What about you, Maria? How does dream has inspired your writing to date?
I just love it when I have a good unreal dream like that. If it's actionable, I will use it. There are some that are in the form of preparation for short stories now. There are some that I've actually used into my main sort of work. But if it's something that I can write on, I am definitely using it. It's just, it's difficult when you start to have the conversation about how original it is and everything. But I just find it's something that my brain has produced. Why is it different than what I'm thinking like awake? So it sometimes, as Jeroen said, it helps you move past writer's blocks. Sometimes it will give you another perspective. But I find that sometimes it's just a gift. Like I was on a big block of my main story. Like I'm searching my brain for what the exact background is, because it's very, very important for the part of the story that I'm trying to write now. And I can't find anything that satisfies me. And then I get to that place in your sleep, I'm guessing, where you might still be able to control, because I remember thinking, what am I going to do here? Nothing that I think about is helping me. And then I sort of half awake, half asleep. I had an idea. I didn't visually see anything. I just had an idea, and it's helping me move forward. So yeah, if it's something that helps me, if it's something that I can even get the tiniest inspiration out of, I will definitely use it. Because as I said earlier, I dream as myself. So sometimes I wake up and I feel that I have had that experience until, it dissolves back into the dreamscape, I guess. So it's definitely handy, and I think that it's a useful ability to have. It's a fantastic way of escaping. It can help you solve your writer's problems, or it can give you like a tiny hint of inspiration. And then, when you're awake and you remember it, you can use your critical mind to say, this is something I can use. I don't know, I dreamt of something that already exists, for example, so I'm not going to plagiarize. So I guess there's no harm in just taking your dream, writing it down, and then thinking, is there something that I can actually make out of that, or is it trash? And it's a good exercise as well. It's like, why would it be so different from getting a prompt, for example, from a website? It's like an idea. However you interpret it, what you do with it, it's very different for every person. So for me so far, it has only served me very well most of the time. Sometimes I just wake up and I'm terrified, but most of the time it's something that I can actually work with.
Yeah. I think most dreams are a reflection of our thoughts and often our concerns. So I see that there is really an interconnection between what happens now during the night and during the day. There's no real gap, and if there is a gap in the middle, it's for sure linked by our brain. So I see that I can transport a lot of my dreams and concerns to my characters. That's something that I want to bring as part of our next exercise, because I see like most of my main characters are not that different from me. They are mostly male, hetero, and white, so they are detested by the current society, and they detest the society back. And if that's not enough, they eat meat and believe in God. So that's something to be in trouble these days, as we know. So what about Jeroen? What's the intersection between the people you hang out with and your characters?
I guess I take little bits of people that I know or people that I interact with, and I use them in my characters, little bits, but I'm quite conscious of that. And in some ways, then in some of my characters, I take, several bits. Like I'll take a little snippet from one person that I hang out with, and then some from somebody else. And then the other thing that I sometimes do as well in my characters, I do bring a little bit of myself into those characters, and how I see the world, or how I react to things, or experiences that I've had. Now the character is probably defined in, like, the character is totally different to me, but there is a little snippet of me in there. And there's, I find that I do use that, and I use interactions with people, friends or family or whatever it is, people that I hang out with at work, whatever it is. I use interactions like that in my characters, but I'm careful as well, because I don't want to sort of take somebody completely and make them a character in my book, because they're going to recognize themselves. You know what I mean? And maybe they won't even like themselves. I don't know. But I'm careful about it. I am very, very careful about it. But I do take little snippets, little pieces of information, little, I don't know, characteristics from people that I hang out with. Also, people that I don't hang out with. So like I said earlier on, I observe people. This is what I like to do, right? In train stations, wherever it is, right? And I had a really interesting one in the summer. I was down in Clare. I was in a town, was waiting for somebody, and this woman came over to me, and straight away I was going, okay, like, I have experience with this, right? This is somebody who suffers from mental illness, right? Like, this really is. Now, she engaged in a conversation with me, and I was, I was just chatting to her. No problem. All good. No problem. But while I was chatting, I was going, oh, this is interesting to me. This is interesting to me. And there I had to be careful, because I didn't want to influence the conversation and make it change. I just wanted it to be like it was. But I was like, oh, that's definitely going to come in for a character that I'm working in, or something that she said, and she came out with some stuff where I was going, wowzers, like really wowzers. And the fact that you're saying that to a complete stranger on the street in the middle of a town in Clare at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, wow, I have to use this. This is mad stuff. But it's that, you know, and yes, I will use some parts of those conversations, some parts of those interactions, and I'll put them into a character somewhere. And that definitely happens a lot. And there's also, you know, I as well, you meet really interesting people who have a real interesting slant on things. It doesn't mean that you agree with that slant, but they have a slant that maybe you haven't heard before. And you're like, ooh, that I could definitely use in a character, you know? So yeah, I find that fascinating, to be honest with you. I find people fascinating. And I like to glean little bits of information from them, or the way that they've handled something, or the way that they say something, or the way that whatever. Yeah, I use it all the time, but I have to be careful, you know?
Here's the concept of dream that I never thought of. Déjà vu dream. I'm familiar with the déjà vu, but déjà vu dream, what does that mean exactly? Do you know, guys?
Yeah, so it's basically, I mean, to my mind, it's you know, the concept of déjà vu is that it's something already seen. So it's already, you've seen it. I've had this happen to me several times. It's an interesting one. It's like the repeat dream, and you've seen it before, or you've seen it in life, or you've seen it in your dreamscape, whatever it is. And I've had in the past dreams that have come back to me again and again and again, and I mean in exactly the same detail, right? Like really precisely the same detail. And it's kind of freaky because you're going, I've dreamt this already 5 times. What's the point of this? So I always see that there must be a point. It's trying to tell me something, or it's trying to explain something to me, or find a solution in it. But I definitely have come across that concept before, and also I've experienced it. It's, you know, it's something I've definitely had before, and I always kind of go, well, instead of being freaked out by it, I now need to know what it is that I need to learn from it, because it's clearly trying to tell me something. It's coming back the 10th time, you know.
That will be new to me with the nightmares. That will be new to me. I'll be happy to dream with this duck. This duck telling that we are reaching 1,000 subscribers. That will be my dream for tonight. So help me dream with that 1,000 subscribers. I can see we got a couple of subscribers since we started the show. So help us having a great dream tonight, and we can all celebrate in November. So press the subscribe button below. Maria, tell us about your intersection between your characters and your day-to-day life.
It's interesting. I find it myself, at least, because in my main piece of work, which is the fantasy book, the main character, he has, and it's a man, so I find it very interesting trying to write about that, but it serves the story better for me, so I went with that. Somehow it came more naturally to me. He has a lot of characteristics, so we share a lot of attributes, but he also has some things that don't come naturally to me. Sometimes it's things that I would like to have, and sometimes it's like enhanced flaws and stuff. Like, he's very impatient. I'm impatient. It's a bit extreme to the comical sometimes, depending on where the book goes. So it's like I'm exploring myself a little bit, because it's such a safe space, because you're thinking, how would I react in a situation like this myself? And now you don't share your character's background, but the personality core is there. So it's a very interesting exercise for me. Does this come natural to me? Would I say that? Or with, you know, characters that I don't really base on myself, they would always have something from someone that I know, or it would be an idea of a person. So how, like, for example, I don't tend to associate myself with people who are overly confident, you know, the borderline arrogance or past arrogance type, because I find that unbearable, and I will always make a comment and then they'll get upset and then we won't talk again. So I'm trying to imagine, like, how would a very, very arrogant person be like? from my experience, but also how would someone that I would dislike, so my character would dislike, talk like, feel like, react to situations. So I like exploring different ideas, but the challenge I find is that you don't want to stereotype. So you don't want your characters to be defined, oh, he's the impatient one, he's the arrogant one, she's the blabbermouth. So in order to make your character multidimensional and interesting in their interactions and how you talk, you have to combine different things. And it's really hard if you're not, as Jeroen said, if you don't want to write about one person that you know from A to Z, and you have to create someone based on imaginary or real people that you've encountered. It's very difficult to just make it believable that a person could be like that, and to have an arc for them, and to feel that their presence in the book and their reactions are natural all the time. Because if they don't react like you're expecting them to, there has to be an explanation for that, and that then becomes part of the story. So I do find that the more time I spend with people, or the more conversations I have, I'm kind of learning from that how differently people express themselves. And it's a really good way, I guess, of not learning not to judge people very much, because there's always, in writing and in life, there is always an agenda, there is always a background, there's always a reason why someone might have a bad day, or they're responding to that because of a particular thing they've been through, or sometimes they have the wrong impression of you and they're trying to please you, they're trying to make you upset, they're trying to make you out of the way. So it's such a complicated thing to write characters. So the canvas that I'm most familiar with is the guy that takes after me, really. I control his reactions fully. I don't really have to think about it unless I want him to have a specific reaction to tailor the story. But even then, it's again up on me. Would I react like this or would I react like that? But it's still my perspective on that. Everyone else is challenging. That one guy, I don't know whether he'll be a character that people would like, or if everyone would hate him and will want him to die, which will tell me something about my personality as well. But everyone else, it's a bit of a challenge to make believable. For him, whatever he says, it's something that I would say, so I know it's real. So it's this, conversation of, is it imaginary? Is it real? Is it believable? Is it completely fabricated personality? So yeah, interacting with people, reading as well helps with that. But at the end of the day, you don't always want to have the expected conversation or the expected turn of events. And that's where I'm guessing sitting at a train station and watching people go by comes in handy, because it gives you the opportunity to imagine what people will say or would do in real life. And that's also a really great exercise, I find.
Right, so let's move to the exercise that everyone is looking forward to, which is us reading, because we have been speaking about our writings for quite some time, for now what I think 6 months since we started. So we need to show some material. I think it's time to move from theory to practice. And so before that, I just want to encourage viewers to join us, Greystones Library, 4th of November. I think it will be 6:30, but I'm still not sure. But if you want to be 100% subscribed to the channel, because we will advertise it very, very soon, perhaps in the next week or two. So I'm looking forward to that. It will be the first time that this podcast will go live. I almost did in June with Marco in Jerusalem, but then the war started. So here is the big opportunity, and I want you guys to be there. If you cannot, we will do our best to broadcast. I think it's possible. After putting the QR on the screen, I think I'll be able to broadcast it in November. I'm optimistic, QR with the Dutch. So everything is possible after that. Okay, so let's start with the reading. I asked Marie that you be the first, so ladies first, and I'm going to try to do some magic here, which is putting on the spotlight, which I should be able after the QR. So let's see if I get it right. Yes, that's it.
It's time to prove that we're actually writers, that we're actually doing something instead of just talking about it. Good. I am not stressed at all reading stuff live for the first time, so excuse me if I speak too fast, and please interrupt me when I've reached my allocated spot, because I could just go on and on like usually. So this is a story that I've posted online at readsy.com, where I post my my short stories, and it's called The Hanging, or A Story of Tobias West. Now, as you can tell from the title, it's hanging, so it's a bit of a sensitive topic. I just want to, you know, propagate the website's warning that it contains themes or mentions of physical violence. So if anyone is very sensitive about that, you can take some time off and get a glass of water. But back to The Hanging, or A Story of Tobias West. The rope was tied around his neck, but he didn't seem to mind. Why would he? Tobias West had been dead for several hours now, as the executioner, the priest, and half the villagers who attended the hanging had already confirmed. Without a doubt, Tobias West had been found guilty of all charges by Jeroen, who acted as Milltown's mayor and treasurer when it wasn't hunting season, and head deer hunter when it was, and was hanged for his crimes on an apple tree on a rainy Sunday in front of the God-abiding population of 60 of his most law-abiding peers. It was remarkably inchy at his beard, though. On instinct, Tobias lifted his arm and scratched his neck. Ah, much better. He let his arm drop. Then he grimaced as a thought crossed his mind. He had lifted his arm. His eyes shot open. Little Samuel Gerbers was standing a few paces ahead, and just below him. The half-eaten apple the boy had plucked from the punishment tree was now rolling on the muddy ground, his jaw dropped more than should be biologically normal, his eyes wide open. Then he screamed. They both screamed. The whole village assembled within minutes. Tobias could make out some prominent figures in the baffled crowd. The school teacher, half-shaven with a gash that might have been dangerous if it had occurred a few inches to the right. The butcher with his enormous belly hanging low underneath his nightgown. It was common knowledge that he equally loved naps and meat from his shop. One of the apothecary's young assistants, the clumsy one. And finally, two people he had gotten to know all too well. The visiting judge who had decided his fate and read his sentence in the steady, impassive voice of an experienced orator, and the boar's executioner who had non-apologetically placed a braided noose around his neck. Tobias was still feeling a little groggy, but there was one thing he remembered very clearly, that the whole experience had been very painful and that he had been tried and hanged for crimes he had not committed. After a long time of gasping, pointing, staring, whispering, praying, fainting, and general disbelief and confusion, he decided he had had enough. He cleared his throat. Clearly not loud enough. His voice felt very coarse, probably because of the recent strain on his vocal cords, but he could breathe well enough to attempt again. Still nothing. He eye-rolled. There was a squirrel on the branch to his left, looking as perplexed as the onlookers below his feet. One of its cheeks was stuffed, but it was too distracted to stuff the other. Squirrels are not used to moving hanged men. The fairy tale soon disappeared back the way it had come from. This time, some people finally noticed the dead body had something to say and started elbowing and shushing the neighbors. Quickly enough, only faint whispers could be still heard from the crowd. Greetings all. Tobias smiled shyly and waved, causing an old man to fall on his knees and reach to the sky with both arms. His wife fainted soon after, but he didn't seem to care once it was clear she wouldn't collapse on him. I believe you'd like some explanation as to what is happening. Small pose to address the response. Heads are nodding, very encouraging. And to be honest, so do I. I woke up to find myself, well, up here. I have no recollection of anything since he gestured, lifting his shoulders and hands. Since the hanging, I suppose, which at the time seemed to have been successful, Tobias said as he turned to his left, not at the executioner, who was clearly going through a professional existential crisis and was reevaluating his whole career path that led to that particular day. The priest was hiding behind him, clutching some sort of token tied around his belt with one hand, and the executioner's bulky arm with the other. The rest of the crowd was going through a similar emotional turmoil, trying to process, on top of everything else, the image of a body hanging from the head, gesturing so casually. Some of them dared to take a step closer to hear better, and were met with no resistance from the rest of the not-so-brave or curious onlookers. The judge seemed unimpressed. I think I've had my 5 minutes.
Well done.
Well done indeed. That was
Thank
class.
you.
That was
Thank
cool.
you. It's if anyone's interested, the rest is online if you'd like to find out what has happened. But I think that's the point, leave you wanting for more. So if you've enjoyed it, I'm very, very glad.
Well done. Well done, you. That
Well
was
done.
great.
That was great. Yeah. So people, if you haven't clicked the thumbs up, here is the opportunity. Show how much you are satisfied with Maria's reading. I think it was fantastic. I think she deserves 100 thumbs up. So press the thumbs up as much as you can. Right. So I think I'm next. So how do I do this? I put myself on the spotlight, and I think I am. Yeah, I think I'm on the spotlight now. So yeah, so no, today is October 7th. It's a very sad day for the Jewish community. And I wrote an article that was just published in the Times of Israel. Actually, I just started collaborating with the Times of Israel. So I decided to write my own experience of October 7th. There's nothing political on it, so it's just my own experience, and I think I will be interesting to share. I wasn't in Israel at the time. I was traveling from Ireland to Portugal on that day, and I think it's one of those days that you'll never forget if you are in close contact with the community in Israel. So I decided to read that one for you guys. That's published in Times of Israel. That's a place where I'll be starting publishing articles in a regular basis. So if you go to the timesofisrael.com and you look on the blogs page, you'll see my handsome face. So you can use that. You can use that instructions to read the upcoming articles. But I will read what I just published today, and that's called "Grounded on October 7." It's just my own experience of October 7th as someone who was in the diaspora. This was a Friday evening not to forget. First, my flight home to Portugal was delayed for hours, my longest ever wait for a plane that refused to leave the runway. I cannot recall exactly how long I was stuck, only that it kept me in the airport overnight, sitting in the bar, where else, drinking, what else, and killing time. When I finally landed, I had to make my own way to my parents' home. No warm welcome at the arrival hall. I would say now that should have been a sign that this wasn't going to be an ordinary visit. When we first heard about the Nova Festival massacre sometime on Saturday, October 7. I can't remember whether it was through social media or the television, only that the news seemed vague, almost unreal. Like many others, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. As Charlie Kirk said, Israel is a fortress. I assumed I was wrong. I had misunderstood. But maybe I was just too tired. Perhaps it was simply too much to process. The human mind resists the intolerable. We cling to denial, sometimes consciously, sometimes as an instinct to keep our sanity intact. But then comes the moment when evidence grows louder than our lies. And there is no choice but to sit down and face the news. Soon, the updates weren't coming from mainstream broadcasters anymore, but from friends or friends of friends. People who had been there, people who had somehow made it out alive. A couple of days later, still in Portugal, I fell ill. I had to move from my childhood bedroom to my sister's. As the survivors' testimonies began to flood the media, I weakened and nearly lost my voice. That's not unusual to me. My body tends to silence me when my words cannot make a difference. A defense, perhaps a survival mechanism. We, the family, we blamed the dust on my old book shelf. But myself, deep down, I knew it was a stress reaction to the barbarity I was seeing on screens. 2 years have passed, and one cannot help but feel anger for the dozens of hostages still held in hellish conditions, and for the indescribable pain of their families who keep praying for a miracle. Sadly, solidarity with them has been scarce. Selective indifference has become the illness of our era. When some lives matter more than others, humanity is no more than tribes fighting with each other. We stop being a species bound by empathy and become something else entirely. Atomized, distracted, disoriented to the sins of our destiny. So that was my piece. Not the happiest one, I'm sorry, but it's October 7th.
No, but it's such powerful stuff. And what I most like about it, this could be anyone writing this. It is so relatable. It could be any war, any bad situation. It speaks like a human language rather than a bias. This happened there. It could be anyone feeling like that. It really got under my skin. That's very
that's
powerful.
the best thing. Thanks, Maria, because that's the best thing I can hear. I'm not talking here on behalf of the Jewish community or the Israeli community. I'm talking here on behalf of humanity, because the human heart is one. It doesn't matter if it is the Middle East or Europe or North America or Asia, 21st century Middle Ages, or the Plato and Socrates times. We are the same species. So I'm very glad that I was able to give voice to the human soul, heart, and spirit, because I think that's the writer's duty. Jeroen, you have the honor. Sorry.
Your words were very, very powerful, Vitor. That was very, hit hard. Well done. Well done in describing a horrendous situation.
Let me just tell people out there, I promise I'll bring something more cheerful in November.
Right. I need to bring this up on my screen, so I hope you guys can still see me. I'm a bit of a technological dinosaur, so I'm going to... can you still see me and stuff?
Yeah, can see.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is an excerpt from my fiction work that I'm writing. And I'll just get into it. Jesse and Junk pulled up to the club. They were early. Jesse had wanted it like that. It was still about 2 hours to the actual fight, but this was the biggest fight she had taken on, and she wanted to be ready. Give her best. Go hard, but fair, but mostly get herself in the zone. This was a bigger club, it being in the city. Junk had even scrubbed up a bit for it. He was wearing his good cowboy hat and good suit. It was shiny and threadbare and probably at least 20 years old, but she still appreciated it. It was probably the only suit he had, and it worked for funerals, weddings, or whatever other occasion. She had been a bit taken aback when she first saw him, all cleaned up, freshly shaved, and his suit on and cowboy boots all shiny. Don't want them city folks to think the hillbillies have arrived, he grinned when she complimented him on how well he looked. This is a big day, and I want to be there and looking well for my girl. It had taken them a good hour to drive, as he insisted on driving, telling to concentrate on preparation. Junk was a lot of things, but a fast driver was not one of them. He had even taken steps to clean the inside and the outside of the truck a bit. They walked beside each other towards the doors. Jude, her coach, was there too. Jesse went off to get ready and warmed up. Junk went and got himself seated near the ring. The ring was pretty big and impressive, the biggest one he had seen so far. As time passed, more and more people arrived, and the seats and benches around the ring started to fill up slowly. Junk was seated so close to the ring he could smell the talcum powder on it. There was a slight smell of sweat and old leather. Junk had been a boxer as a young man and had always enjoyed every aspect of the fight. He really enjoyed watching his granddaughter fight. She was light on her feet and had exquisite movement. He had never seen her give up, no matter who she was up against. Full contact was, of course, different, but he was excited to see her handle herself under the extra pressure. Her fight would be the third fight. He sat and watched the first two. The combatants were beginners and clearly nervous. The fights were shorter, 2 rounds. Jesse would do 3. As the first one was drawing to a close, the sound of heavy motorbikes outside filled the room. A huge bunch of bearded, hairy bikers in leather jackets came into the room and took up any seats or spaces still available. Junk saw people look at the group with fear. Tension and nervousness filled the room, and people were uncomfortable. Jesse's boys had clearly come to support her. The second fight finished and the announcer got into the ring. He was whipping the crowd up. And in the blue corner, out of the Black Dragon Club, Jesse Tarkovsky. As he finished speaking, there was a roar of appreciation from the bikers, which drowned out any noise the crowd were making. Jesse walked out of the door at the other side of the ring to a loud rock song played by the DJ. She was in blue shorts and a top and walking calmly through a corridor between the crowd and the ring. Junk could tell from her face she was a bit nervous, but she had a steely determination about her. She walked in and climbed between the ropes into the ring. She took a seat in the blue corner and waited for her opponent, who was walking to the ring from her side. Junk could see that the opponent was tall and well-built. She looked tough, hardened, and experienced. That's it.
Well done.
Please make an audiobook out of that. That was fantastic. And why are you leaving us now wanting more?
That's the whole idea, isn't it? Just give it a little snippet and,
I found it very visual. Like I could see it happening in front of my eyes. So there's a lot of merit on that, Jeroen. A lot of merit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without it being overbearing, it feels like you're noticing the things that you would notice if you were there as well, which is very difficult to achieve. I think, not to give too much or too little, but the way you're reading it as well is like, oh dear book.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
So, chat box is there, guys. What do you make out of our writing? Is it somehow what you were expecting? Are you surprised? What do you want to hear next time? What do you want to hear in November? Because in November we plan to do a mixed bag of some new topics and revisit old ones. So if there's something new that you want us to discuss, we are more than happy to bring to the table. If you want us to go back to certain topics that were not fully explored, or perhaps there are other angles that we can use in November, let us know in the chat box. Even if we don't do it now, we can always read it later on. So yeah, just want to encourage others to tell your view. So this was great. I think it was a fantastic way to finish this episode. I think it works very well. So thank you for that, guys. Thank you for the courage, because I know it's not that easy.
Yeah, I was glad to do it, and I was quite nervous about it, but I had practiced a little bit, but I was still, I've never done that before. But I think it's also important for our viewers to know that we're actually writing something and not just talking about it.
Yeah, so with that,
absolutely.
I want to encourage again people to subscribe, if not for our writing, for the duck. I just wanted to press that button. You'll be happy. We're having duck dreams tonight. I can see. This duck has been all over the place. So please press that subscribe button below. When we get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, share with someone who is into writing, dreams, culture, all that funny stuff. And if you enjoy what we do here, press the like button below. We got a few thumbs up tonight. I was checking. I think people are more and more connected with with our dialogue here. So that's great. Let's make this community grow. I look forward to see people face to face in November, including Maria that I haven't met.
Yeah. That's a little nugget of information that we've never really met yet.
Yeah, we haven't met, but we will meet before November. That's for sure. We'll meet before November in some secret place. So just the three of us. Perhaps the duck we can welcome, but that's it. That will be a secret session. So tomorrow, if you wanna tune in tomorrow, 7:30, myself and Marco will have a special podcast on October 7th. So that will be heavy. But if you want to join, make sure to tune in. Thursday, League of Ireland. So cheerful stuff. Myself and John O'Shea, who are massive Cork City fans, are going to be delighted to share our predictions for Cork City facing Shamrock Rovers in the final in November and other stuff that took place last week. And Friday, perhaps lunchtime around noon, I will share my impressions of London. So that's what we are here for this week. There's more stuff next week, but I'm going to announce it perhaps tomorrow or Thursday when I'm sure of the dates and time. So in the meantime, press those 3 buttons below. And for those who are in Ireland, I hope to see you in November. If not, I'll do my best to broadcast it. So thanks, guys, and I see you soon. Take care.
Thank
Thanks
you.
all.
Bye all.
See you there. Bye.